Okay, we're rolling? Yes, we are. The numbers is rolling. Once again, you're here with A.L. Nolram, Big Al Nolram, the bombastic and bodacious mouth of the South from Beauregard, Alabama. And we're here today. You notice I got the anything and everything hat on, so that means we're going to talk about anything and everything today. And what we're going to talk about today is one of those touchy subjects from the new Independence Party, one of their platform things, called ProLife versus ProChoice. We'll see what we can do for you here and see if we can't clear these things up so that you won't be out there bombing them abortion clinics and killing them doctors and stuff. You pro-lifers killing doctors, you know, just don't make sense to us here in the new Independence Party. But you do what you want to do, and we'll do what we want to do. Okay, let's talk about, we got to go back a little bit. Sometimes in the new Independence Party, we've got to take one step backwards to take 10 steps forwards. And so we're going to try to do that for you here today. We'll see what we can do. Now, you remember back a few years ago, they had these things called isolation tanks and sensory deprivation therapy and all that kind of stuff where people would go back and they'd get in these little rubber suits and get in these tanks of tepid water and, you know, with the eyes covered and the ears, all that kind of stuff so that they didn't have no sensation whatsoever except just hearing their little gut sounds gurgling away and all that kind of stuff, you know. Anyway, they was trying to get back to the basic, you know, back to the womb, all that kind of stuff, you know, and so we'll see what we get there. But they you know, get no sensations at all, that kind of thing. And when they take those people out, you know, after a few hours, sometimes a few days, whatever, sometimes they'd cry, sometimes they'd scream. You know, they just, when all those sensations came back to them, they said everything was so much clearer to them, you know. The sights, the sounds, the smells, everything was just so much sharper because they'd been deprived of it for a while. And so they'd end up with sensory overload, and that would cause them to cry or scream out or whatever. Okay, and now keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. That's going to relate to pro-life, pro-choice when we get to it, just a little bit. All right. Now, the second thing I'm going to go over is a computer model. We're going to compare a human being to a computer. They're kind of set up a little bit the same. I'm one of those high-tech rednecks, and I do information technology. I know a little bit about it. And so I'm going to tell you how it works. You see, with a computer, you got a collection of electronic parts. You know, computer and electronic parts, they're fit together. You got things like a power supply, and you got things like fans and memory and a processor. That's kind of like a brain, and a hard drive, all that kind of stuff, you know. So you got all those electronic parts, and when you put a computer together, you know, some folks do, they put their own computers together. And when they put their computer together, they have all these little electronic parts, and they check out each one before they put it in, you know. Make sure that the fans are blowing and that disk drives are spinning, all that kind of stuff. So they always check it out before they get it all put together. And then and that's called a component test. And then you assemble it all together and you fire it up. Of course, now, it doesn't do a doggone thing until you load its soul. You know, PCs are people too, and they have a soul, and it's called an operating system. And until that operating system fires up, everything can be on, and power can be applied to it, and it'll spin, and nothing will happen. You won't get no display. It won't take no input from the keyboard or mouse. It won't put out nothing to your printer or to your display monitor or whatever, until that operating system gets loaded. Now, some of them are different. You know, you got Windows operating system, you got Macintosh operating system, you got Linux and Unix operating system. You got all kinds of them out there. Got various flavors of souls, but if that computer don't have its soul going, if it ain't fired up, then it ain't going to do a doggone thing for you. All right. Now, keep that in mind, because now we're going to talk about human beings. They have bodies and souls and spirits, and they are a collection of biological parts, not mechanical, electrical. They are biological parts, and God does a component test on things too in the womb. Whenever He connects up a little muscle group to a nerve ending group, you get a little twitch, you know, a little finger, you get a little twitch, a little wrist, you get a bigger twitch, a little arm, you get a bigger twitch, you know, leg, and all that kind of stuff, you know, and women think that means something's alive in there. Well, yes it is, and no it isn't. It's a collection of biological parts, and they're being tested out and make sure they all work and everything, but there's no soul there yet. Not yet. No operating system yet. I'll tell you that. You think about it, it's not there yet. Because those are just little collections of parts being put together by creation. Okay, and so when we finally get there, and we get that fetus all complete, and it's ready to go, and it's got a functioning brain, and it's ready to hold a human soul. Now think about this, people. In the womb, you're trapped in this tiny little spot in that. Wouldn't that give you claustrophobia if you was trapped in a tiny little spot like that? Some of those folks in the isolation tank was like that. They had to get out after an hour or two. They just couldn't stand it. And do you know all the contortions and compressions and everything that little fetus undergoes going through the birth process, coming out that birth canal and everything? God wouldn't put a human being through that kind of torture. He just wouldn't do it. That's not like him. But once it's out and a separate human being, separate from the mother, a separate individual, then in a single point in time, God injects an operating system, a soul, into that little fetus. He injects it in there and boots it up, and everything comes to life. And I'll tell you what happens. Now, you think about those folks in the isolation tank. They was deprived of that sensory input for just a little while, and they cried and screamed and whatever. Well, imagine this on a brand new soul that hadn't experienced anything, and all of a sudden is connected up to all the senses, all the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes. Red, blue, green, bright, dark, fast, slow, loud, soft, piercing, mellow, voices, clangs and clatters, blood, the smell of blood, urine, medicine, antiseptics, alcohol, ammonia, taste of sweet, sour, bitter, salty, the touch of hard, soft, hot, cold, smooth, and rough, all of a sudden descend upon that little soul in an instant of time, and the only thing it can do is scream bloody murder. The first act of every human being in this world is to scream bloody murder because of all the sensory overload that brand new little soul receives. Now, you think about that, people. Don't spit it out just yet. Chew on it a while. See if it don't make more sense to you. You see if I don't know a thing or two about a thing or two. And that's when human life begins. And that's the point where the new Independence Party changes from pro-choice to pro-life. Once that first primal scream comes out, we become pro-life from that time on, and we try to protect that life in any way we can from all those murderers, rapists, and child molesters and everything else out there that'll try to get to them. All those accidents and everything else that might happen to them, we try to train them up, teach them to live a good life. You see if we don't. All right, so I don't know whether we convince you or not that we in the new Independence Party know when human life begins. But just think about it a while. But don't think too long. Those 2012 elections are coming up, and we're still trying to get Miss Sarah Palin and Mr. Herman Cain elected as president and vice president of these here United States. We think they're the best choice. I know there's other fellas out there, there's other ladies out there, but we think that team is the best choice. And we got a few folks to help them out. We got a core constituency, just like that little fella, a couple thousand years ago. He had him a core constituency of about 12 disciples, apostles, whatever. And he started a pretty good program there, and it's still going strong today, called Christianity. I don't know if you heard of it or not. But anyway, it's still going on today, and that team is backing us up here. That little fella that died on cross here a couple thousand years ago, he's backing us up on this. He says that he'll help us out and get those folks elected for us. We got God the Father, that's his Father, and God the Father's significant other. That's the other one of the Trinity. The sign of the nipples, the Trinity, and we nip things in the buds, and then if you don't like us, you can spin on this. Read between the lines, spin on this. You got that? All right. Well, we're going to move on here. Well, that's it. That's all we got for today. So next time we're going to talk about some of my and the new Independent Party's favorite authors and the ones we recommend you read out there. Try to give them a little support for their books and that, and maybe they'll give us some support for our books, the ones that we got that we'd like to print. So anyway, we're going to tell you about 3 of our favorite authors. Let's see, we're going to talk about there's Christopher Paolini, there's Terry Goodkind, and there's J.K. Rowling. You know, Christopher Paolini had the little dragon book about Aragon and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And Terry Goodkind had the Sword of Truth series. And of course, that's not for kids. We'll tell you about that. That's not for kids. And then J.K. Rowling, she had the little Harry Potter series, and that is for kids. And so is Christopher Paolini's. Those are both for kids, but don't give Terry Goodkind's books to you. Even though it does talk about wizards and that, believe me, it's not for kids. Alrighty. So anyway, we're gonna say, like we always do, bye bye for now. Y'all take care of each other out there. Don't be doing too much fussing and feuding. Be kind to each other. And above it all, God bless America. Thank you.